I wanted them to do something. Somebody had to go down. That person is still out there walking around, and my daughter is not. My daughter's not going to get to have a wedding or a baby or law school. She's not going to get to do any of that, and there's this person or people are still out there, and that's... It's affected me more than I could ever imagine anything affecting my life. Every day has been different since she's gone. And I think that this is important to talk about it, to share our stories so that other people can learn about this epidemic, this poisoning of our family members, so that we can try to keep this from happening to other families. So that's why I'm here. Allison was sweet, feisty, very energetic. She had a smile that would light up a room. She was very athletic. She was a softball pitcher on a softball team. She liked volleyball. She was an angel. She loved to shop, and she would oftentimes see me wearing something and say, "Mom, what were you thinking?" "No, Mom, you need to go change that clothes." And she would go say, "Let me pick something out for you, Mom." And so I would let her do that, and she was amazing. She would find things in my closet that I hadn't pulled out in a long time and put them together, and they looked great. So she had a gift at doing that. She liked to drive her car fast. She should have been a race car driver. She could have been a race car driver. In fact, her dad even said, "You should think about being a race car driver because you'd be good at it." She was beautiful, inside and out. She loved her family, loved her friends, loved her grandma. Allison had just turned 21. She turned 21 in November, and she passed a few months later in March. It was St. Patrick's Day, actually, when she passed. It was right at the beginning of COVID. Everything was just starting to shut down, and she was really had a lot of anxiety about that because she was worried about her job, she was worried about school, she was worried about everything. In fact, the night that the last conversation, not the last, but one of the last conversations we had was that night, and she said, "Mom, let's get our nails done because they're going to close everything, and we need to get our nails done and our hair done because we don't know how long this is going to be." So that was, and I told her, "You go on, Allison, I'm fine, my nails don't need it." So I wish I'd gone with her that night because she did go get her nails done, and then she went on to a party, but so it was March 18th, 2020. Allison was working at a law firm. She was helping out with the lawyer there. She was working on her paralegal degree. She was 4 months from graduating from a paralegal program. So she was in a law office, and she absolutely loved that environment and decided that she was going to be a lawyer. So she was going to finish paralegal school, stay at the law firm, and her aspiration was to get into University of Houston Law School at some point and become a lawyer. Her aunt is a lawyer, and that's where she was working for her aunt at the time. So she was worried about the law firm shutting down because she had just heard that they were going to go to some skeleton hours and work from home. The school schedule had just changed. She had just gotten notification of that. So she was very worried about all of that. And so she had anxiety issues anyway. And that just led to it. So I think that night she was with some friends, and they were celebrating St. Patrick's Day, but in the back of her brain, she was very worried about what was going to happen in the coming days. So, yeah. And at some point during the night, I think they decided that it might be a good idea to go get a tattoo. So they thought, well, if we're going to get a little tattoo, we might need something. So that's how the Oxy came in. They thought, well, we'll go get some Oxy, and that'll help take away the pain when we do this. I don't have a tattoo, so I don't know how painful it is. But anyway, they thought that this was going to help, I think. So she got a hold of what she thought was an oxycodone pill, and she took it. Apparently, she was the only one that took it, and then she got sleepy, laid down, and the next morning, she was gone. So that's how this all evolved and happened that night. So it wasn't unusual for her to stay at her friend's house, and we knew that that's where she was. She called at 10:30 that night. 10:30 that night, she called me on the phone, and she was saying, "Mom, we're having a good time," and we had talked about some other things, and I asked her about her nails, and she said, "Yep, I got my nails done, and you should have gone." And I asked her what color, and we talked, and the last thing she said is, "I'm good, Mom, I'm good, and I love you." And I said, "I love you too," and I said, "We'll see you tomorrow." Well, tomorrow came, and she didn't come home, and I thought, well, she must have brought clothes with her to just go straight to work. Well, the law office called and said, Allison didn't show up. Do you have any idea where she is? And we had a tracker on her, but we hadn't tracked her because we thought she was at her friend's house and went to work. So we looked and we saw where she was and thought, that's odd. So she had ended up somewhere else. Anyway, so that's how we found out the next day, that she didn't show up at work. So we found her car, and she was... somebody came out of the place and said that, she was unconscious. And they had called 911. And 911, the ambulance showed up and the police showed up, and they thought that they might try to do CPR, but she was already gone. So they wouldn't let us in. So they wouldn't let us in to see her, and they just came out and said that it was too late and that she was gone, and they weren't sure what happened. And because it was right at the beginning of COVID, everything was screwed up. It was 6 weeks before we actually found out the cause of death, which was horrible because we had to make her final arrangements and actually bury her without really even knowing exactly what happened. So we didn't, we knew that she had been drinking, and we knew that there was, the Oxy potentially involved, but we didn't. Okay, so there was an Oxy involved, but we didn't know because nobody else had taken it, that it was fentanyl until we got the coroner's report 6 weeks later. To find out it was fentanyl was devastating, but at least we had some clarity. I mean, we didn't make it any easier, but at least, because it just didn't make any sense. Didn't make any sense. So when we found out that there was fentanyl, we were really upset, mad, angry, went back to the police and asked them about it. What are we going to do about this? And they said, well, there was alcohol in her system, and there was some Oxy in her system, and there was fentanyl. So when there's multiple things, you can't pin it on one exact thing. So they couldn't go after this person because we had a good idea where it came from, but they said there's really nothing we could do because things have changed in 3 years. Things have gotten different about how they, I think, prosecute people who are involved with fentanyl. But at the time they said there was multiple things in her system, so we can't do anything about it, basically. Yeah. How did we figure all this out? Talking to her friend, the friends that she was with. And the police report, there was, some things in the police report. So that's kind of how we put it together. And I talked to her at 10:30 that night, so I knew where she was, and I know where she ended up, and we kind of pieced it together as to how it happened. So, yeah. She left her friend's house to go get the oxy. She was going to come back with it, and we're going to think about tattoos, I guess. So she never made it back. It's been hard on her brother, too. I would like my son to maybe have a discussion with you at some point, because, you know, they talk to the parents talk about it a lot, but the siblings don't. And I think that Zach might feel better if he had a chance to describe Allison and their relationship and how it's affected his life. So, you know, that's important, I think. He had to do her eulogy. I mean, I couldn't. There was no way I was going to get up there. I couldn't. I was a mess. Her dad got up and talked, but Zach did a fabulous job on celebrating her life and making people actually laugh that day. He told some stories that were good, that I hadn't actually heard before. So so in such a sad, horrific time, he brought some light. I had to write her obituary. That's the hardest thing I've ever had to do. I said, can you write an obituary? So to sit down and write an obituary on your daughter is pretty tough to do. But I tried to highlight everything good about her, everything fabulous about her. She absolutely had not a clue that there was fentanyl in this pill. I would say that's a poisoning. You know, she shouldn't have been doing what she was doing. She thought she was taking an oxy. She thought that's what someone gave her, and it was laced with enough fentanyl to kill her. So that's a poisoning. That's a poisoning, in my opinion. We had no clue. They weren't really talking about fentanyl at that time, 3 years ago. It was just kind of coming about, well, I guess it hadn't affected my life, so I really didn't know about fentanyl. And when we saw that, we're like, now we know why she died. We knew it wasn't from too much alcohol. We knew it wasn't from, you know, she didn't want to die. We know that she didn't try to take her life. She had so much to look forward to. She was so excited about, you know, completing that paralegal program in 4 months. She had a great job lined out. She was worried about what was going to happen because of COVID, but she was so excited about the future, and, you know, she had a lot to look forward to. So I know in the 3 years since Allison passed that there have been some law changes and that they're able to kind of go after these people now. And actually, you know, the 2-year statute of limitations, or whatever it's called, they came to us right before the end and said, do you want to pursue this? And my husband and I just said, we can't go through all this again. It's not going to bring her back. So we opted not to open it up and go into it again. So that was just a decision we made. So it's not going to bring her back. It's just going to bring all those horrible memories back. She shouldn't have been doing what she was doing. Absolutely. She shouldn't have been. She had no business taking an oxy. But I know how many stupid things I did when I was 21, and I survived. You know, I drank too much and I drove too fast and did stupid things, but I didn't die. And I just think that she made some stupid mistakes, but that was a deadly mistake. And the takeaway is that I guess I'm angry that she had to die for her mistake. And I just want the word out there, and that's, I guess, part of my goal of doing this, is just to get the word out to everyone. Don't take anything unless you know unless it came from your pharmacist, basically. Even if it comes from your best friend, don't take it because everything is laced. The latest DEA report says that 7 out of every 10 pills out there are laced with fentanyl. potentially lethal doses. So the takeaway is that don't do it. Don't do it. I guess I'm frustrated because we have been talking about this now for a long time. This fentanyl crisis epidemic has been out there, but it only seems to be getting worse. So we're all talking about it, but why is it not getting better? So that's a frustration. That's a big frustration that I have, my husband has. I don't know the answer. I don't know the answer. I know that a lot of it's coming over the border, and until we get that handled, I don't think this is going to get better. So, and that's not a political statement. That's just a statement from a mom who's lost a child as a result of an illegal drug coming from Mexico, China, wherever it's coming from. Almost every circle, different circle I'm in, someone's been affected. Someone in that circle, whether it be my pickleball friends or my neighbors or relatives in other states, everybody you talk to now knows someone that's been affected. So